and interact uh, through the session. I'm logging in from Mumbai, India. I am the learning architect, like Amanda said. I work with a social enterprise called Project Fuel. Project Fuel works in the space of human wisdom. We document and celebrate human wisdom. We pass it on using the creative interventions of education, art and culture, and media. And through the session, as we experience some of the ways that we engage with human wisdom, I'm sure you will get to know more about our work. Just a request for all the participants joining in, if your internet allows you and where you are placed, if you can switch on your videos, it would be great to see each other as we go ahead with the session. Okay. Before I even, pull up my slides, I would request all of you to just close your eyes for a moment and notice 4 to 5 secondary sounds that you may have not noticed when you logged into Zoom. Let's just close the eyes for a minute. I invite you to close your eyes for a minute and just notice a few sounds around you. Okay, and if you can slowly open your eyes, please. Does anyone want to share with me which kind of sounds did you notice? You can either unmute yourself or share in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with.
You can't call yourself, but I know how to do it.
All right, a lot of birds I see that we didn't notice before. That's lovely that you are in places where you can hear the birds chirping, the winds, the refrigerator humming, the wind. Thank you so much. So by taking this moment to really pause and listen intently, we often notice, right, some of the things that we may have otherwise missed. Similarly, in our classrooms and in our teaching practices, we may sometimes overlook the smaller details that shape the larger experiences of our students. With this, I would like to share some of my slides. At Project Fuel, as I mentioned, that we document human wisdom. So we have to keep track of how many humans actually are there in this world. And as of today, we have 8 billion people on this earth. And if we take one piece of advice from each of these 8 billion people, that means we have harvested 8 billion solutions to some issue. It means 8 billion people, we have collected their stories. These are 8 billion people who have some similarities or differences from us. And when we talk about ESD, we feel that it cannot be achieved without noticing, without harvesting the wisdom of these 8 billion people, because we will continue to make the same mistakes. I would love to hear a few thoughts from all of you about what your definitions or your understanding of the word wisdom is. Would anyone like to share? Again, you can unmute yourselves or share in the chat.
Understanding the practicality of things is what I think about wisdom.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, absolutely. So how can I apply that learning and the practicality of it? Anything else? I'm just going to look into the chat. All right. So Divya is also saying futuristic approach towards education and to learn more. Many times we all agree that wisdom becomes this highest pinnacle of cognitive learning. Whenever you ask someone that, hey, do you want to be wise? Most likely their response will be yes. But within our education systems, sometimes the focus is around making the learners more intelligent and smart. We don't have so many conversations around wisdom. And the reason behind that could be plenty. Most of the times in the past, wisdom has fit under the umbrella of philosophy or religion, and it's not so much looked at from a scientific lens. But since the past couple of years, that has changed. There are professors who are studying wisdom from a scientific lens, from a neuroscience lens, from a psychological lens. So now there is hope that we can actually train our learners to become wise. And there are multiple ways to activate this wisdom, which do become some of the pillars of ESD. Every objective that we want to achieve through ESD, that is understanding of the interconnectedness, building our empathy muscle, critically thinking about the issues at hand, manifest as an outcome when we talk about wisdom and how it's being passed on. And when we talk about wisdom, we are not talking about a person who is standing a pedestal or a person who has 1,000 followers on Instagram. At Project Fuel, our approach with wisdom is how can we really make it go from an pedestal approach to a pedestrian approach? How can we celebrate each one of us and harvest and celebrate our life lessons? Which brings me to my next slide on approaching wisdom as play. We are borrowing the symbol of a pinwheel, which brings with it joy, playfulness. And we encourage that when we are engaging with wisdom, when we are talking about wisdom with our learners as well. For us, the child is actually not at the center of the pinwheel under the scrutiny almost of these education system, but it is part of the pinwheel as collaborators and not beneficiaries that we need to train. And if you see these 5 pillars, although they are currently under each of the panels of the pinwheel, but they coexist and they are fluid in a very integrated approach. Through the session, we will touch upon and experience each of these pillars so that they make a little more sense to each one of you. And my hope is that you can take it back into your learning spaces. So yeah, this was just a quick, all the theory part thrown at your way before we get into the playful mode. So I would really invite you and encourage you in the subsequent slides to participate and engage with each of these pillars. There are going to be a bunch of activities that I invite all of you to engage in, and I will bring some of the experiences from the past that we have worked at Project Fuel and share it with all of you. Are we good? Is everyone with me? The early risers in the other part of the world, thank you for joining in. Okay, sorry, I am going back instead of going forward. Okay, here is our first activity. So what we need to do is, can someone first tell me who is the odd one out in the 5 things that you can see on the screen? All right, so the fish. Now this fish is a little stubborn fish, and we need to convince the fish that it belongs to this group. So we really need to try hard to convince the fish, and we are going to talk directly to the fish. So I would like you to think of various lines that you would tell the fish. Let's start with, dear fish, dash, dash, dash. What would you say to the fish to convince that it belongs to the group? You can again choose to write your answers in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with.
Hi, I would say just keep swimming.
All right. Thank you, Shubhra. Uma is saying, dear fish, you can be a friend with the ship. Consensus, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but is saying, dear fish, all of the objects can move and so can you. So you belong to the group. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, the fish doesn't seem convinced, guys. We need to convince the fish a little more. What are we going to say?
We can always say that the other three objects are lifeless. They don't have life, but fish has a life. So, and it can move. So along with the other objects which moves, fish can also be a part of this group with life, which is special and which can also is mobile, like the other three objects.
Thank you, Uma. Moria has shared, dear fish, you're a toy in the child's bedroom and you're important to that child like other toys. I love this one. All of them can be toys as well. Thank you, Moria. Ibrahim is saying that you can race with all the others and emerge a winner. Ability to move. All right. Thank you so much for engaging, and you can continue to share your responses in the chat. I just wanted to create this space if someone wants to unmute and share what your experience was when I first asked you to think about what you're going to say to the fish. Was it easy? Was it challenging for you? How did you navigate and negotiate with some of the thoughts that were coming to your mind? Would anyone like to share, especially the people who have? Yes.
I thought it was a little difficult because spontaneity of answering was lost. We had to think a little before we could actually give a sensible answer.
Okay, for me, it was a little, difficult because I was trying to see the similarities of where the fish belong to. So, how it fits into the group. So it was a bit challenging. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Josephine. Yes, it is really challenging to think about it, but you beautifully brought in one of the points that I was going to share later, that as and when we think, we are actually looking at the similarities and pushing ourselves to unearth those similarities that are existing. Anyone else would like to share before I move forward? We can take one more response maybe.
I felt it was just a bit like a scramble. I had all these ideas that didn't really make sense, and I was trying to put them together to see all the connections. Yeah.
Thank you, Moria. Yes. And sometimes all right, Helen, I would like, yes, you can go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so for me, I felt a bit very kind of challenging to me. So what I did was to first of all admire the fish and find out what exactly the fish has in common with the other object. So I tried to see how the fish can also react like them too. So I had to think about the movement, the speed on how they move. And I remember that fish can also swim very fast and can also be compared with other objects. So that is what I had to do. So, but at first I had to think, so it was like a bit challenging for me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, everyone. And often in life as well, this happens when we are trying to include someone who is unlike us. It is challenging. We need to push ourselves to think of similarities. And in most countries, I'm not sure in the part of the world that you are joining from, but I remember in my schooling days, I was always taught to find the odd one out and put it aside. That's the game that we play, but not the odd one in, bringing the odd one in. And in this activity with the fish, what we are trying to do is train ourselves to think in the reverse manner. How do we bring that odd one in? And when we think of that, we are pushed to build our muscle of empathy because we want the fish to not feel bad. And in a process of doing that, we are pushing ourselves to think in a more creative manner, and we are bringing in the ability to notice things that we may not have seen otherwise. I remember doing this session with young learners a few weeks back, and one of the young learners, I think 12 years old, said that, "Dear fish, you belong because like all other objects, you are part of the presentation deck." Another one said, "Dear fish, you belong because like all other objects, you have a watercolor, feel to the design." And that's what happened because you are looking so intently and you are removing yourself to think of the first few responses that come to you. Which brings me to my next slide, which is the first pillar of wisdom-based learning, which is perspective taking and sharing. And it becomes such an important aspect, even when we link it to ESD, because it fosters empathy, understanding, and respect for diversity. In a globalized world that we are living in today, there are so many differences in how I look, in how I speak, in how I dress, my behaviors, my values, but we all are interconnected. And how do I create space to then take these diverse perspectives and share mine? And when I am creating the space to take in the perspective, I am looking at something from another person's point of view. And when I am sharing my own perspective, I am building into that diversity. Does anyone want to share anything at this point before we go ahead?
Yeah, hi Akansha, Pankaj this side, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
First of all, the previous slide made us made all of us think critically rather than just thinking. So you triggered somewhere the critical thinking part of our life. And secondly, you spoke beautifully about the coexistence. Having non-living and living together. So that's actually the mantra of life, because we have to settle down with all the non-living things along with the life. So beautifully put up. And I was starting, I was thinking it from the perspective of ESD as well, because I everywhere try and see SDGs. So I could see there was a life on land as well as there are, life below water. So so thank you for bringing into this, and this is some kind of perspective building, how we look at things in a different way. For one person it can be a half glass water, and for one person there is an existence of air inside the glass. For one it is just water, drink it. So beautifully put up, and congratulations for the beautiful session, and thanks to Ma'am Amanda for bringing you and sharing with all of us. Thanks.
Thank you, Pankaj. All right. So this was our first pillar, everyone, which is perspective taking and sharing. Moving on. For the past couple of years at Project Fuel, we have been working closely with a community in Babati in rural Tanzania with a wonderful NGO called Karimu Foundation. And we were interacting with a bunch of students from grade 5th and 6th. And often, we live in a world that our questions create, but often we are not taught how to question. We are taught how to answer. And especially in rural Tanzania, just with the social context, the students are very scared to share a wrong answer. The fear of failure is really high in their social context. So we wanted to break that, and we wanted to create space for students to A, ask their own set of questions, and B, answer some questions that actually do not have any right or wrong answer. What you see on your screen right now is a part of a small activity that we did with the students. We asked them that if you could ask one question to God, what would you ask? And these are some of the responses, which beautifully bring out what is in the student's mind. Macrina, age 13, has posed such a simple yet profound question of why did you create us in different colors? Martina asked, God, where have you been? Haven't seen you in a while now. And another student is asking that, hey, God, do you even rest? So I just wanted to bring this to you and go towards the second pillar of the work that we do, which is questioning along with answering. And I think, again, when we connect it to ESD, it fosters that critical thinking and inquiry mindset within the students, which again becomes so important as the sustainability topics become so complex that we need to create space to inquire further and to shred it to pieces to try figuring out what is the root cause and what are other creative ways in which we can solve for these problems that have been existing since years. Yes, Mahamba, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Mahamba Sebastian, would you like to share something?
Thanks, Mom. My name is Mahamba. I'm from Tanzania, and I'm from Wanza, actually. When you touched the part of the project that you did in Tanzania, actually, you reminded me, actually, the community where most of our students are coming. And most of our students in Tanzania are from the high context culture, and that could be probably because of the undemocratic family that they are coming from, diverse culture where most of kids do not have the position to express themselves before the community. That's why when then they go to school, it's really hard a little bit to express themselves critically in the classroom. So I love the project that you introduced in Babati, but again, we have a great work to continue supporting the community, not only in Tanzania, maybe in more places in East Africa, in Africa, large, and maybe some other parts of the world. Thank you. I love it, Ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sebastian, for sharing. Yes, all right. Now it is time for another activity. And for this one, I would request you all, if you can have a piece of paper and pen with you, that would help. So if you don't have it with you, you can quickly grab it. Hopefully you have something around. And I'm making another request. If the others who don't have their videos on can switch their videos on, it would be lovely. If that supports you and if it is possible at your end. Okay, moving forward, it is activity time. All right, how many letters are there in the alphabet? I know there are mostly educators joining this, so I should get the right answer to this one.
7.
All right, 26, 27, I'm hearing 7 as well. Someone has written 3. I love asking this question, because the more I ask this question, people feel that, is it a trick question? And is the answer something different? So no, guys, it is 26. We have 26 letters in the alphabet. But what we are going to do now is all of us are going to invent the 27th letter of the alphabet. So let's put our innovator's hat on. There are only 3 simple rules: that the 27th letter that you design and invent needs to have a symbol, it needs to have a sound, and it needs to have a use. So I'm going to put that in the chat box: a symbol, a sound, and a use. We are going to take, let's say, 5 to 7 minutes to do this. Amanda said that a great bunch is joining the session. So I think you can do it in 5 to 7 minutes. You won't need more time than that. So let's take the next 5 to 7 minutes. The task at hand is to design the 27th alphabet. Your time starts now. And it would be great if you can draw your symbols a little big and bold so that we can see your symbols once you're done.
Funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine.
All right. And if some of you all are nearing the end of your thinking process, or if you already have an symbol in place, if you can just indicate with a thumbs up sign or in any other way, so I know how many of you all are still working on it or doing it. Thank you, Milton. We will take 1 more minute and then we will get into the sharing. Okay, thank you everyone for engaging. Let's see some 27th letters of the alphabet. I would love if anyone would like to unmute themselves, show the symbol that you have invented, share with us how we can pronounce your letter and what is the use of it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ibrahim Yunus from Tanzania. So I've invented a letter. I hope it is visible. It's like a cloud. So the name of the symbol will be cloud.
Sorry, Ibrahim. Sorry to cut you. Would it be possible to go off your virtual background?
Yes. Okay.
Because then we can see it. Only if it's okay, Ibrahim.
No problem. I'll just
Thank you so much.
All right. So I think now it's visible. So,
yes.
Yeah. So this is a cloud. The name of the symbol would be a cloud, and the sound would be a silence. So it's a silence, and the use of it is to open up new imaginations so that we can have the normal words that we use in our daily lives, but we can always shuffle, put a silent alphabet within so that it can mean anything different, anything that we decide it to be. So it's all about imagination and creativity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. I love it. Thank you. Sandrine, would you like to share something? You're on unmute. Anyone else would like to share? I know that we have few responses in the chat, which I'll read shortly, but I wanted to just create the space if anyone else. Yes, Alana.
Hi, I shared the infinity sign. Mainly, it's simply to show the connection between the letters. It's a silent letter, so it doesn't have a sound. Its only function is to emphasize on the connection between them. Simply, it encourages questioning between the relationship between the words and definitely thinking about them from a new perspective.
Thank you so much. Love it. Yes, Maura.
Hi.
Maura, yes.
Oh, I don't know. How do I turn off my background? Why is it like that? I don't know. Basically, I've done this. Oh yeah. Why is it? Can you see it?
No. Yeah. At that point, maybe we can get a glimpse of it.
It's a C and a T. So I've done a C and then I've done a T, and the sound is qua. And if you put it in front of the other letters like qua and cars, it means you have no idea. So it's a symbol to say, I have no idea about cars. I have no idea about trees. Qua, C and T combination.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I love that. Yes, Juliet.
Hi, everybody. My name is Juliet from Ghana. The sound that I've also created is I don't know if you could see the sound. We have I have over here. It's like three, like you send three. When you send three to the other side, that is how the sound is like. And it uses I'm going to use it as a vowel. So we have 6 vowels already, but it's a word that it's a sound that when you mention, realize that it really shakes in your throat as the other sound. And I saw that it fits into a lot of words as other sounds does. For example, like the E, the A, the A, and the other sound. So I believe that adding it to the consonants, adding it to the vowels is really going to help a lot. And so it could be used as a vowel sound in between other sounds like the consonant. So for example, you can have B, the B sound together with the A and another that bass sound, then you can get a word like bed. So you can use it, its function as other vowel sound as well. So that is what I was able to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juliet. Thank you for putting in so much thought while inventing your letter. All right, I'm just going to take some responses from the chat. Tatiana has created a cool looking symbol for I think a lot of us use it, but now we have a letter for it. And whenever in doubt, we can use that. Sobia has shared it as well. The sound will be all right. I think we shared that. Aliana has shared. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you had fun inventing the 27th letter. And if you were in the midst of it and I didn't give you enough time to complete it, maybe after the session, you can get back to it. Okay, let's, for now, get back to the presentation. Which brings me to our third pillar of establishing relationships. And I think, Moria, you beautifully touched upon some of the points that I was going to share on this slide, is when we are inventing the 27th letter, it is very important for us to consider all the 26 letters that come before us. And that's what I would like to invite and share with the entire group, is that in reality as well, when we are working with sustainable development, it is important to consider all the work, all the relationships that have already been established before. And we live in a world where learning cannot happen in isolation or in silos. Everything, when we exist, it is in relation to something. If I am feeling angry, it is in relation to something. If I'm feeling happy, it is in relation to something. So this becomes a really important pillar when we are talking about cultivating wisdom-based learning and talking about sustainable development. When I look at establishing relationship in the relation to ESD, it pushes me to think about our collective shared responsibility that we have towards this topic. It promotes collaboration and social learning, because I cannot do this work in isolation. I need to consider everything that has happened before me and do it in collaboration with others. So that brings us to establishing relationships. We have some things in the chat. All right, we have many other letters coming in. Maybe I can create some space to hear about these. Pankaj, would you like to share how we can pronounce your letter and what is its use?
Thank you, Akansha. I just connected the 3 letters, SDG, and this 27th letter is actually reminding us of all the time that we have to, keep in mind sustainability. And sustainability leads to, if you can see, it's a S that stands for Sa sound and Da and Ja. So it's Sajag. Sajag in Hindi means that is everywhere, and it's a symbol of God as well. So we are, using our wisdom. So whenever somebody has to represent a wisdom, they will use the term Sajag.
Thank you so much, Pankaj, and thank you for putting so much thought into it. Okay, a quick check-in. Are we still okay? We need some stretching to do, some water to drink. Okay. All right. That's good. We are in one more activity, which is coming up next. For that as well, you may need a pen and paper. What I am going to do is I'm going to show you a picture of someone for 5 seconds. And then you need to observe that picture intently and make a note of the first thing that comes to your mind. And we are going to keep doing this for, let's say, around 10 times. So I'm going to show the picture and then go off the screen, show you the picture, go off the screen. And whenever I go off the screen, you make a note of your observation. So whatever you observe, just make a laundry list so your list can keep flowing as and when you make the observations. Have I explained myself all right? Okay. And I am hoping everyone has a piece of paper and a pen to note down your observations. So look intently. All right, let's see the image. Look. Note down. Look. Jot down your observation. Look. Jot down. Look. Jot down. Look. Jot down. Sorry, just give me a second. Something's wrong with the slides. Okay. Let's do it for a couple of times more. You can jot down your observations. I'm going to go a little quicker now. Look. Jot down. Have a last look. And jot down. Okay. I would like to invite someone to unmute themselves and just read your list from the top to the bottom. Yes, Alana, thank you.
Okay, so I started with simply writing notes, Hitler, oppression, discrimination, power, manipulation, isolation. But then I started paying more attention to things around him, which is the black and white, and how the shadows change from black to gray. And then I started noticing his eyes, the tiredness, the regret. And then I immediately moved on into not notes, it's actually questions. Does he understand? And we need to understand his perspective, his purpose. Probably he did wrong methods. And then by the captain looking on his eyes, is he regretting his decision? Has he learned something that later affected his judgment? To what extent his own military background affected his connectedness to the world and probably affected his judgment? So I moved from what I actually know about him into later on just simply making a connection to the image that we have and understanding his perspective and why he did what he did. And thank you for the activity. I honestly love this.
Thank you so much, Araina. Mahamba, we are just going to give Shubhra and Dalia a chance, if you don't mind. They haven't spoken earlier. So I would request Dalia to unmute and share first. And Mahamba, I'll come back to you. Yes, Dalia.
Yes, hello. Yes, hello.
Hi.
I love the activity as well. It is really eye-opening, actually.
Dalia,
The things that...
Sorry to cut you. I have a different prompt for you. I want you to read your list from the bottom up.
Okay, this is interesting. Sad. How did I know the wrinkles surrounding the corners of the mouth indicate sadness? He is uptight. He is classic. He is fit based on the fat percentage in his face. He is not approachable. He is firm. He barely smiles, as there are no wrinkles, or the crow wrinkles that we call them, around the eyes. He is worried, thinking about plans, and he is very determined.
Thank you so much, Dalia. And now, Shubhra, I have a question for you. If you took Dalia's list and shared it with someone who was not part of the Zoom session, do you think that they would guess the person that we were talking about is Hitler?
Possibly not.
And why is that, Shubhra?
Because she doesn't mention oppression, tyranny, cruelty, massacre, any of those terms that we associate with him.
Yes, thank you, Shubhra. Sorry, I'm going to go back to Sebastian. Do you want to share something at this point, Sebastian? I took away the opportunity from you, but you can share your thoughts right now if you like.
Well, thank you. Actually, that is a great thinking trap, and I want to thank everybody that have shared their thought on the photo. And just like also my colleague have alluded, I want just to add a little bit that the photo actually depicts a mustache man, and he's very keen looking at something. Again, it seems to be more angry and scolded and probably frowned with the faces that I see. And actually remind with the history that probably the person that has wore a shirt reminds me on the ancient history. And again, I was kind of like thinking maybe it's coming from India or German, but I don't know exactly who the person is. Thank you so much, then.
Thank you. Thank you so much for engaging with this activity and all the previous ones. This brings me to our fourth pillar, which is encouraging reflection. What we did is, of course, we observed very intently, but through our observations and through the reflections is what we did is we reflected on our preconceived notions, our own biases and prejudices that we had for a man that we knew. Right? And that's what happens often. If we know someone and you show them their photo, yes, this is this person, this is what we did. But once we start moving past it, there were some of the traits that if we read out loud, it could fit for anyone else. With this pillar of wisdom-based learning, it becomes very important to be self-aware of our own biases, of our own prejudices and preconceived notions. Because only once we are aware of that can we channelize it, work towards ourselves to overcome them. And that's what I wanted to bring to today's session. And when we do this with our learners and in our education systems, it is about creating that space for our learners to reflect critically on what their own personal values are and their beliefs. And if they can identify some of the areas for their personal growth, so that they can use these reflective spaces and move from an area of reflection to action. Does that make sense? Okay, I can see some nods and thumbs up. So I think I'm in a good place there. Moving forward, y'all can take some breather now. There is no activity to be done. I wanted to bring a project which is really close to our hearts at Project Fuel. It is called the Wisdom Corridor Project. What we do with the Wisdom Corridor Project is we train students to document and celebrate the life lessons of their very own teachers. We realize that when we walk into schools, we often have these school corridors laced with quotes from Obama to Mahatma Gandhi, but these are people that our learners do not have access to. They do not have access to these people to hear their stories, to hear their narratives, and how did they learn the lessons or the quotes that we are reading on the wall. So what we thought is that, hey, there are these amazing teachers that the students spend so much time with. Why not they document their life lessons? And what happens in this entire process is that the students build curiosity. It is an entire student-led project. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritties of the project. If anyone is interested, we can chat more after the session. But what I wanted to bring in this session is when the student, when the learner is interviewing their teacher and learning about their life, is when they are able to humanize that person in front of him. So Akansha, who may be my math teacher, is not only a math teacher after that conversation that I've had with her, because I get to know, oh, Akansha likes chocolate ice cream more than vanilla ice cream. Akansha is more passionate towards the environment than something else. Or in her free time, she likes to listen to music. So all of these conversations help craft a narrative, help craft a story for the child and for the teacher through the project. And what we do towards the end of this project is that we create this beautiful wisdom corridor, and it is unveiled with the life lessons of the teachers. And it is an entire student-led project. So I wanted to share some of the storytelling and some of the nuances that the learners have brought in. So on the right-hand side of my screen, if you can see, this is a young learner from a school in Pittsburgh where we are doing this project. And the group of students there realized that we want to add a QR code to the wisdom exhibits, because some of my peers, some of my learners have a learning disability and they may not be able to read the life lesson. So they can actually scan the QR code and listen to the story, listen to the narrative of that teacher. If you come to the top left of my screen here, you can see a bunch of self-portraits, and that's their way of documenting the person that they interviewed. So they created portraits of the teachers, of the students that they interviewed through the project. this brings me to the final pillar, which is of narrative play. With narrative play, we are understanding the person, again, not in isolation, but learning about their story and developing the muscle to own our individual stories. Once we are able to do that, once we are able to craft that positive narrative for ourselves, we are able to move beyond that judgments that other people may have. And that's what we try and achieve through the narrative play pillar of wisdom-based learning. And when we use the techniques of narrative play, we are able to explore these complex issues in a way that is relevant and relatable to my story. That's the last pillar of narrative play. I am going to pause here right now and just create this space if you have any thoughts coming up for you, if you have any questions. I do have a couple of more slides ahead. But yes, I'm open to take some questions, particularly on these 5 pillars or any of the activities that you all did. Absolutely. We have some of the students have interviewed the admin staff, the guards, the cleaners. So it usually starts with the teacher community and then flows with the other enablers in the school ecosystem. And even beyond, some people have even interviewed their community members. Okay, if there are no further comments or questions, I have a gift for you. So you all can scan this QR code. During the pandemic, the team at Project Fuel developed an educational module. The activities that are part of this educational modules are based on the life lessons of 20 people from across the globe. It has around 50 to 60 activities. It's completely open source. So you can get access by scanning this QR code. I can even share the link with Amanda if some of you aren't able to access it here. I hope you can use some of the activities with the learners or in the capacity that you work in. I would love to know your feedback, hear your thoughts if you do use this resource. And just a big thank you from my end for listening to me so patiently and engaging in all the activities. I know that preparing school systems to value SDGs, to value ESD and wisdom-based learning is not easy. So I would like to thank all of you all to taking the first step of becoming these strong advocates to creating this culture within your school systems. And we at Project Fuel hope to build a constellation together with each one of you so that we can strengthen our learning systems and we can create a world that all our learners can hopefully fall in love with. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop my screen share. And if you have any questions for me, any comments, please do share.
Hi, Akansha. So I'm from Tanzania once again. I just want to really thank you for quite a great workshop today. Very informative, very enlightening. I hope you'll also share your email address so that we can, proceed with further conversations. I think Project Fuel is very potential and can be applied. I'm running a chain of schools in Tanzania. I think we can do something about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. I would love to stay connected with each one of you. I have shared my email address in the chat. Also, I have shared a quick Padlet link. I didn't want to spend much time populating that during our session, but I would encourage all of you to click on the link that I have shared and share your own life lessons. We would love to pass it on. You never know, one day I could have a life lesson based on your life lesson, Ibrahim, or Shubhra, or Ilana, and that would help a learner in some part of the world. So I would love if you all can click on the Padlet link, share your name, share which countries you're logging in from, your life lesson, and we would love to know the story behind it as well. How did you learn that life lesson, so that we can celebrate your wisdom and pass it on.
Thank you so much, Akansha, for the wonderful session. We are so happy to host you from everyone here at Global Schools. I just want to make sure there's no more further questions before we close. I think there is one question in the chat. If anyone wants to read more about the wisdom of play, what kind of readings do you suggest?
Sure. So based on the wisdom-based approach, is it, Amanda? Did I get that question right? So there are a bunch of articles. There isn't as much research being done. It's all academic articles. What I could do is, I don't have the names and I don't want to get it wrong right now. Amanda, what I can do is I can send you a bunch of reading materials that we have in our repository. And if you can forward that to this group, that would be great.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. We will put together a blog post and an email with all the follow-up links, so you all can access more readings and materials and learn a little bit more about Project Fuel, and we'll include that QR code link as well, if that's okay, Akansha.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, sorry, go ahead. Did you have anything else to add?
I think Simon had a question regarding the wisdom corridor, and Simon has asked if I can take that question. Amanda, it's come to me directly. If you could include the effect it has had on the learners. Sure, Simon. I didn't want to, we do have a couple of slides on that, but I will give you one example, which is live from one of the schools in Pittsburgh right now. I'm just going to change the name of the student. Let's call the student Finn for now. So Finn used to be a really shy kid in his class. He used to not actively participate in any of the classroom activities. And when he would go back home, he wouldn't actively share anything with his parents. But through the Wisdom Corridor project, Finn got a lot of opportunities to showcase his agency, because he had to decide which questions he wanted to ask his teacher. He wanted to decide which teachers he wanted to interview. And as part of the project, he was given a journal to document all of his feelings, expressions. And what this led to is every day when he would go back home at dinner table, during the dinner table conversations, he would read his journal entries to the parents. So during the Wisdom Corridor unveiling, the teachers had called the parent community as well to the school. And Finn's parents went up to the teacher and said that, thank you so much for doing this project, because this is the first time Finn came back and shared something that he did in school. And this is one of the few activities that we got to know what is happening in the school. So although a small change, but what we saw is that Finn did grow to be a more confident person. So that's one of the things, probably, Simon, that I would like to share. And another impact that it has had not only on the learners, but on on the entire school ecosystem has been, we had one of the teachers who liked this project once it was implemented with her learners. And she came back to us and she was like, you know what? I don't want the learnings to come to an end right now. How can we keep it going? And how can we infuse this into the school culture? So what she started to do, or what she proposed to do, is that we have all of these life lessons documented. Can they now become part of our morning assemblies or morning announcements? She used to coordinate the enrichment programs in their schools. And she said, I'm actually using the stories that my students have harvested to teach qualitative data analysis based on the things that they have gathered. So it really became a part of the schooling system rather than just a wall which was created. So yeah, these are few instances and we can talk more about it. Yes, Joyce.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Joyce. Good afternoon. Yes, go ahead.
I'm Joyce calling from Ghana. Thank you so much. I've been enjoying most of the workshops being organized by Global Schools, and I think it's a plus for this group. Please, this is very insightful and it's been helping a lot. We need more of such training in our classrooms. It is time that teachers become facilitators in order to make our students active in whatever they do in a class. And then I also plead for such a wonderful program like this, if we could be given certificate of participation in the near future, in order for us to, let's see, we can add that to our set and the resumes in whatever we find our way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joyce. Yes, Juliet. Did you have your hand up? Josephine, would you like to share something?
Okay, I was wondering if this video will be shared to us so that, you know, maybe after the recording, if it can be shared on the Global School platform.
Good catch, young chap.
Yeah, Josephine, I can answer that. We will share it on the Global Schools blog, and all of the links will go on the blog next week. And then we'll also send out a follow-up email.
Thank you so much, because the session was really interesting. It's something that one needs to apply in teaching children in schools right now. Yeah, thank you so much.
Looking good, House.
So I don't see any more hands. So if it's okay, Akansha, I'm gonna close the session.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amanda, for inviting me. Thank you to each one of you for joining from all parts of the world and at all times and time zones. I really enjoyed my session. Thank you so much for interacting and engaging with each of the activities. Truly appreciate it. And I hope we can work together sometime in the future. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Have great days, evenings, mornings ahead. Bye.
Bye, everyone.